Okay. Oh, yes. Okay. It's early morning, Monday, and it's going to be quite warm today also. So I thought I'd have a cup of coffee and while talking, drink a cup of coffee. The only time I ever drank coffee was when in the 60s they would tell you to, when go on a date with a girl and buy her a coffee. But normally the only thing I drank was tea, or black tea even. But we'll have another cup of coffee. Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy. I met a couple of old ladies, like really old ladies, old women. They're walking down the street, and I said to them, "Do you know that Australia was the first socialist state in the world?" And the little old lady said, "No, I didn't know that." And then I continued on saying, "Well, one belief is that socialism is witchcraft, based on witchcraft." And then looked down at the pavement and continued walking and our system. And the government has to be a cause. You see, they think, oh, we caused them to have a job, we'll cause them to die. We'll manage cradle to the grave socialism. But that's not true. Oh dear, I don't know. Oh dear. I did watch a very interesting talk. Oh, okay. Okay. Now, did watch an interesting talk on the computer about the history of witchcraft, but it focused primarily on USA, but a little bit on UK, where UK had it for hundreds and hundreds of years. He sort of took the Arlo Guthrie idea, where he was saying, well, they wanted to kill someone, and so they justified it by the witches, or something like that. But so the thing was that I watched a little bit of Jane Pauley Sunday Today show on CBS. I must mention well, I won't, because Republicans aren't all that intelligent when it comes down to it. And the Democrats aren't really much more intelligent. And they talk about all sorts of weird things. I'll give you witchcraft. There was a woman who lived here who had a green or white or something, showed up with 5 dogs, and apparently gave some away, so that when I'd go to Aldi, the character who was employing that professor of gynecology's daughter, Philippa, the guy who employed her, walked past with an Alsatian. And then 5 senior Labour Party men had been dropped off so they could walk down the street. visualize where Paul Reynolds and his sort of Catholic sisters, Anne and Christine, but the thing was, Christine, she got employment as a sex worker, and that's probably because she was taller than Anne. But that's okay. We don't mind, living in the first socialist state. There's a teaching where they say the secret is all religions were here to create socialism. All religions, communism, socialism, from thousands of years ago. And so. Yep. I'm prejudiced against Catholics, I must say. I'm prejudiced against Catholics, even more so against Protestants, and particularly Muslims as well. When they get down on their hands and knees with their girlfriend or their wife, and maybe conception takes place. The thing about Albert Einstein and the theory of relativity and all that, E equals mc squares, is that was deconstructionism, deconstructing the deconstructionism. So, for example, these cigarettes, to continue on with the deception of deconstructionism, are manufactured in Indonesia by Philip Morris. Now, I've never met Philip Morris, and I haven't seen him on TV, but they're called Harmony by Choice. Now, so what they're doing is using, quote unquote, On the Mountain as a textbook, and they don't know how to read a textbook. And so that's a quote. And it goes on like that at that level because people aren't really very intelligent. So the talk about witchcraft was really quite interesting. It went on for about 1 hour, 15 minutes. And it didn't talk about at any point in time those ideas of cradle to the grave socialism. But the key to witchcraft in modern terminology is cradle to the grave. Well, let's see, what else did he talk about? Well, I can't remember, so I'll just have another cup of coffee. Now, the thing about those lunatics in America, seems pretty obvious that their intelligence organization wanted to teach Jane Pauley, how to think in a lesson or two. And so when she was in China, put out the story that she'd been held overnight along with the crew and weren't allowed to go to sleep or anything, and then they could leave the country the next day. Now, at the time, a very senior Chinese Communist Party woman was hanging around where I was living. She had the same name as Chairman Mao Zedong. And if you've ever heard Chairman and then back in America, she realized and understood that, the 9 the Twin Towers and all that was about her own life, her own individual personal life, having, and what else? And on the Pentagon was the five senses. And so the conception of her twins didn't involve much sensuality, you've got to guess. And through the experience, she understood and was educated. The funny thing, like, for example, Arlo Guthrie has a song about bits of burnt meat and, I don't want to eat that sort of stuff. He said, that's, anyway. Arlo Guthrie did a new song in 1977 about the watchtowers here, where the practice was witchcraft. Witchcraft. Like, witchcraft are you going to pursue? No, not like that at all. I did a new song about the watchtower, and everyone I've met from that area, like, they did this big spy case to educate these locals from that area. Brothers named McLean. So they did a big educational, very large educational collective consciousness environment. So they didn't have to think. All they had to do was, follow the inner currents of intelligence. It's gee, what a great cup of coffee. Jane Pauley. Now, I have to make a comment. Not really. The Chinese Communist Party, though, has been here quite a few times. And they did everything they did so they could get a copy of a book I'd done. And they didn't pay me, and they didn't thank me, and they wanted to present Chairman Mao Zedong's, I think, third cousin or niece or something like that, named Rose Tsai. And one was supposed to say, she's forever young, she hasn't aged at all, and, all that sort of thing, because, they're masters of the universe or religion, or because, the point about religion was to create communism in societies, even back in Greece. Well, that's the teaching now. You see, it's been adjusted so that we can understand, the Weltschwagen, or whatever you want to call it. So, okay. But I can tell you that there's a heroin dealer who, he might even still be living here, who fixed a guy up, a poor guy. His name was Michael Begg. And they tried everything on him, and he couldn't stand up. He couldn't unbend himself. And he was, as the talk about witchcraft briefly went into it, he was acting out. One of my ages ago personal experiences. And so was unable to stand upright. Went to see a heroin dealer, gave him a shot of heroin. Instantly repaired him, was able to stand upright and walk down the what's it called, the footpath. And the heroin, when I originally was in this area, this $500 million worth of real estate development and buildings weren't here. So the thing about heroin dealers being solicitors and lawyers and so on is they really grease the wheels of the economy. And wow, now it's 500 million at least new buildings, constructions, and all they want the people to do is sit around in their constructions, and then eventually die, and it'll work out fine as cradle to the grave socialism, you know. Oh, but after the Michael Begg showed up and went to the heroin dealer, and the guy gave him a shot of heroin. Oh, nah, a shot of whiskey, mate, a shot of whiskey. Standing upright, the Chinese, you see, the Chinese, the basis of communism and socialism is one must never be with familiar people. One must always be a stranger in a strange land. It's got to be TV reality. It's got to be people you don't know. You know? The thing about Arlo Guthrie, for example, he was saying, well, I won't say, but it's quite a good album. Quite a good new album. And yeah, the theory of relativity, you know, E equals mc squared, that's deconstructionism. The Swiss might be trying to undo the deconstructionism, but, you know, it won't work because once a thing is broken, it won't be repaired. Once humanity is broken, it can't be repaired. You know? Oh, it's funny. Like the first version of Alice's Restaurant by Arlo Guthrie, and he's not related to that famous communist, that famous communist guy. What's his name? Named Guthrie. That other guy, famous communist. You know, who walked the countryside, and this land is your land and my land, and things like that. No, he was. It's not related to him. He's not a communist or anything. One of the stories was about have you ever been arrested? And by that, he doesn't mean have you ever been born into a socialist nation where even birth is seen as being arrested, or transcendental meditation, the rest of your life, you know, things like that. I won't go into it, but I got to admit that you know, these Indians. No, I won't even say that. There was a white woman, walking down the street after those two old ladies were there, dressed in a sari. Now, why would a white woman in South Australia who looked to be English wearing a sari? Why would she do that? You know, it's it's hilarious. And a car number plate on the expensive car number plate on. Now that's not English. That's Indian. On. You know what I mean? It's funny. It's real funny. And it's going to get better for them. For them, it's going to get better and better and better. But There will be no constructionism. It'll all be deconstructionism, as E equals mc squared was. Because apparently in the olden days, he's suggesting, Arlo Guthrie, that one had to give the name of the arresting officer. In the olden days, before World War II. That's an interesting idea, I suppose, because you could go out if you're in a bad mood and shoot the guy if you had a gun. And I know where you could get some guns. There's a heroin dealer that's got lots of guns. We're the IRA. They're just so. It may be true that there's an impulse in human beings, like there is in animals, where they want to kill, for food, let's say. In humans as well, and they just want to kill, for food. Well, whatever. Well, I finished my cup of coffee. The date is over. I bet. Oh, wow. What an education Jane Pauley got. She came on TV from yesterday, today. None of these shows were shown here. CBS. Like Arlo Guthrie was saying, now, what's Officer Opie going to do? And, of course, he was talking about Opie Avenue and a hit-and-run car accident where the guy ran down the kid named, what was his name? Kim, ran him down, drove off. And strangely enough, after being run down, he was able to get up, run home, and never came back to school. And from that, the Koreans got Kim Jong-un, bum, bum, bum. And it's the original communist socialist state. Witchcraft, You know what I mean? I'll tell you a little, no, I won't tell you a little secret. It's like that. That's Arlo Guthrie. He's obviously read the Bible and to a certain extent understands what it's about. He got pleasure from reading it rather than using it as a whoops, light another cigarette. Oh dear. Yeah, the thing about pencils is when I was in Switzerland, they had an exhibition. Now, you got to understand this, the way it was working then. There was a collective consciousness of Germans, let's say. Some Germans lived in Switzerland where it was neutral. We do not support war in any fashion. Next door to that was the Italian section. We do not support war in any fashion. Next to that was the French section. We do not support war in any fashion. So in the German section, they had a exhibition of the writings of the man who got a Nobel Prize, who wrote in lead pencil. And some of those books were quite big and must have taken months and months and months to write. But for example, one of them, Journey to the East. Now, being a German, part of the collective consciousness of Germans, that gave the impetus for the Germans to form a brotherhood with the people in the East who were named Indians. Aha, aha, aha. If you're not a German, which is why they didn't recommend us read any of those books, if you're not German, it won't work on your collective unconsciousness. As for the French, and the French section of "We don't support war in any fashion whatsoever," they did try to reconstruct what the deconstructionist Einstein did, or resulted in, with E equals mc squared, by getting 80 kilometer or 50 kilometer circular magnetic fields to get those little particles to go 99.9% the speed of light. And when that happens, new particles are created that last only a millisecond, but at least they're constructing something. They're creating, let's say, new life. But I tell you, when the COVID quote unquote virus came, I thought the whole story was disinformation. Disinformation arranged by state government here and British government there. Disinformation. So what happened in Switzerland is they turned that 50-kilometer ring around a rosy cyclotron off. And for a while there, it was just like being home. You know, the clouds were nice and fluffy and normal. Nobody came in and robbed me every day. Didn't have people trying to rape me when I was asleep. The thing about the Arlo Guthrie album is he talks about mother rapers, father rapers. I did meet one German girl, a heroin salesman, working with the IRA, who did rape my father and my mother. Really good girl, knows how to do it. Oh, now there's a guy walking past with a cup of coffee in his hand. You see, they are not mentally ill. they just act out. The place has been designed so that people act out, as the talk about witchcraft described. Oh, but the cyclotron was closed down for a while, and while it was closed down, it felt like home for a while there. Clouds were all, nice clouds and cool outside and everything. But as soon as the cyclotron, came back online, that all stopped being a home. And so, how does a cyclotron work? Let me explain it to you. You might be able to get an analogy to how the planets work, how the solar system works, or not. A large magnetic field is generated in a 60 or 50 kilometer radius underground facility. The magnets can make the particles. They usually use protons, but sometimes they use electrons. They can get these things to go 99.9% the speed of light. They don't mean William Light, the founder of the city of Adelaide. No, they don't mean that. There is something called light that you use to see things, if you're not blind. And so what Arlo says is Adelaide is just another case of American blind justice. So anyway, the cyclotron goes at 99.9% the speed of light, which is a velocity that you can't really imagine other than, say, as a formula on a piece of paper, or you can wipe your bottom with it and think, oh, there's the atom bomb and stuff like that. Oh boy. They turned it back on. and things are sort of vaguely getting back to, the start of this whole creation. And it's got nothing to do with some guy from Britain named Light, or some cricketer named Pope, or some American who are named Pope, or anything like that. It's got nothing to do with those sort of things. It's about the physical universe. And the physical universe, my belief anyway, is that the physical universe, once upon a time, was all spiritual. And don't misunderstand me. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. The old timers said then the problem started when man showed up and the animals showed up and the word showed up and all that. So I really can't help you. I really can't help you. It's still going on. Okay, right. Black Friday. Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, they got this thing called the cyclotron. And why is it called? Well, why did they name it cyclotron? Well, if you really want to look into the logic of it all, Albert Hoffman was not an exile living in Switzerland. He'd been there for quite some time, because when they declared themselves to be neutral, many people moved to Switzerland. Hardline, we don't support war in any fashion. And so what did Albert Hoffman do? Well, to cut a story short, in the army, they give you clothes to wear. You get free clothes. And having visited there and been there, I always ask the question, how did that ferry, the big ferry, the modern ferry, the state-of-the-art ferry, how did it get onto the lake that's in the mountains? How the hell how did they do that? Maybe they levitated it there and put it there. Oh, they're very clever, those. If you start devoting yourself 100% to peace, you start being a lot cleverer than if you devote yourself to war, as the Australian socialist nation did. Anyway, the cyclotron. When they turned it back on, when it was turned on again, for me anyway, things sort of returned back to what I'd call normal. And so, as to be expected, you'd have somebody coming in every day and taking something, and because they come as a thief, because they're Bible people. They, what he said about witchcraft, they acted out. Okay, well, I can't think of anything else to say. Oh, I won't say. Uh, Despite the popular belief that Playboy magazine came from the pen of an Indian guru Swami who wrote a poem about the premier of the state called Hello Playmate, I'm Here. Despite that, the inside information was that it was about an aunt I had who came from the old country. And Arnold, that guy got #1 pop song in Australia. Took him, 5 hours to write it for Johanna Van this man, the Dutch girl. The Lord's Prayer. And so they sent 50 copies off to the House of Lords, and the House of Lords peers, sat around listening to this. Oh, man, another song dedicated to us lords of the jungle. And there's a truck going on. The thing about, well, anyway, the thing about socialism is none of these people work. None of them work. A lot of them drive cars, trucks, trains. None of them really work. Not just here, but everywhere. But as I was saying, none of these places that are here now were here when, I was told, now listen, one of the heroin deals, a couple of keys are coming across tonight, so you can't walk me home. Amazing what heroin does. Teaches them how to do economics, economics. So, anyway, I'm sure this won't make any sense, but you'll be able to hear my voice. Okay, I'll smoke one more of these. If anything, people are getting stupider and stupider. If anything, they're getting stupider and stupider. Like, for example, the American Constitution says, when all else fails, resort to violence. That's getting stupider and stupider. Oh, well, I don't care. Do enjoy yourselves. Now remember that. Remember. Oh, right. And the occult place that was there 1920, that's no longer there. They demolished that house, Center of World Occultism, and replaced it with prefabricated two-story apartments, what they called apartments. And that's about, so there's no evidence there. They did the same thing at the cemetery, removed any evidence of witchcraft and so on and so on. And it is sort of hilarious, but cigarettes are quite expensive and all the rest of it. They used to be, like, for example, imported from America, a pack of Camels, $3. But these have been specially made. Apparently they're taking it as a textbook, what that particular thing called On the Mountain, taking that as a textbook. So what it means is people are getting stupider and stupider, and I have contributed to the process as well. Okay. By now, hello Guthrie. If you get a chance, go and listen to his albums. He hasn't recorded anything for so long.